Turn off AI companion. Now we can start. 15-minute increments.
ODOT's decision to close the picture or the SF tracks.
I mean, it's that or die. I mean,
Was a.
It
took me.
I was at Mark.
An hour and 9 minutes.
I was at Mark when they closed it.
Wow.
Chuck was down there too. Fairfax.
Test.
No, just start taking Fairfax, you'll be fine. We should have taken 435 or Fairfax or any other road. It got closed at noon, and right? Yeah. All right, Board of Aldermen work session's called to order. We have one item on the agenda, the budget review. And for those of you that don't know, 169 northbound is closed at the airport. And our bathroom is out of service, so if you have to go to the bathroom, go to the senior center. Merry Christmas, Dan. Go for it, Rick.
All right. Is this on? I think it's on.
Yes.
All right. Good evening, board. Thank you for giving me a few minutes here to talk about our year in for 2025. As we start going through here, just a reminder, these are our unaudited results. We'll have our auditors in here starting this week, actually, and start going through 25. First up, we'll be looking at the general fund. General fund did very well for 2025, as we'll see here shortly here. Just kind of a few things, and we'll kind of go into some of these a little more detail as we go through the PowerPoint. For the increases that we've seen on the revenue side in the general fund, they were definitely seen in the sales tax, use tax, and interest earnings. Interest earnings, you'll see, performed very well. We definitely did not have the rate decreases we were anticipating for 2025. So that is one area where we did very well. On the expenditure side, we have some small variances of savings, basically in the department's salary and wages. That's just due to staff vacancies, and then also capital improvements on the general side. Remember, we had approved about 160,000 in campground repairs. We came significantly smaller than that. I think it was about 120, 124. So we had some cost savings there as well. Looking at our overview of where our numbers stand at this point, we came in on revenues just over 1.2 higher than what we had budgeted. That is largely due to, as you can see there off to the right, the interest earnings coming in at 525. We have the sales tax at almost 140,000 more, and the use tax at 206. When we were doing the budget for 25, all of those have had sustained pretty significant increases, double-digit increases. We were not confident that was going to continue, but it definitely performed well for 25. Then on the expenditure side, as you can see, we had about $113,000 of savings. So what we'll see here towards the end of the general fund section is I'll go over our fund balance. You'll see that that has a huge swing for 25 and then going forward as well, when you have both a savings as well as higher revenues. First off is the property tax. Looking at 4 or 5 of the larger revenue buckets, it came in relatively close to what we budgeted. Budgeted 1.205, and it came in a couple $1,000s higher. We did receive some more information from Clay County on the senior tax freeze for 26. We were kind of waiting until after December 1st. They promised us a little bit more information with some numbers backing it up after December 1st. They came back and have the city of Smithville having a hit to our property tax revenue of just $10,000, almost $10,000 for 2026. What we did for 26 for the budget is 1,215,000. So I feel confident that we can hit budget even with this senior tax property freeze. Looking at the city sales tax, we've definitely had some increases here over the last few years. Some of it more than likely due to inflation as well. But overall, the city tax has been performing very well. Obviously, people are still spending. The use tax that we'll see here in a minute has definitely been increasing much beyond what we projected. So I have a feeling that the use tax will probably keep going up at a pretty good clip. Sales tax may slow down just a little bit going forward. For 2026, we have budgeted right at 1.7 million. So that's about 120 more than what we budgeted last year, but a little less than our actual for 25. And here's that use tax. As you can see here, almost 10% increase over actual to actual 25. Use tax is definitely on the way up. Like I said, I don't see online buying slowing down much in the future. We should be able to come in pretty close to our budget for next year, which is 1,070,000, I believe. So a little less than what we actually came in for 25, but significantly higher than what we had budgeted. Interest earnings. So right now, as of today, in our bank, we are earning still 3.81%. That's still pretty good. They usually change it on the first of each month. They don't always change it. Being December, we had a rate cut. I would expect something to happen to start decreasing again. But this is definitely not decreased as fast as we thought it would. And I keep in contact with Central Bank at least once a month, just checking in, trying to feel where they're at. The rate that is supposed to go down every first of the month has not happened hardly at all in 25. Had a couple decent sized chunks go down, but nothing on a consistent basis. So they are definitely taking care of us there. I will make note for 26, this is what we agreed on with a board discussion, is that we are going to start splitting this interest revenue between water and the general fund. And that split is about 60% general fund, 40% water. So we are projecting for the general fund, we have budgeted about 225,000. And the other 40% will go to the water fund. Looking at the motor fuel tax, in 2021, the state of Missouri decided that on an annual basis, they were going to start increasing this tax, and it increases every year by 2.5 cents. They started, I believe, October 1st of 21, and then it increased every July 1st going forward. I do have in the 25, as you can see at the top there, it does say 0.27 as far as what the tax was. That was the majority of 25. It did change on July 1st of 2025 to 29.5, but I left it at the 0.27 just because that was the majority of our fiscal year. That increase has now stopped. There is no more increases as of July 1st, 2025. So that is now at 29.5. Right. Because of these swings, because of our revenues that have come in significantly higher and the savings in the expense side, our general fund balance as a percentage of operating expenditures is about 67%. I have a couple more slides here. We will see what we had projected during the budget. And now that it's at roughly 67%, what the next 5 years or so will look like, assuming that that stays close to that 67%. This was during our budget, we had projected it to come in roughly at 51.5%. The expenses that we were projecting at one point, the forecasted expenses were pretty close to what they actually came out to. Where this big jump is significantly impacting is on the revenue side, with the interest revenue earnings, as well as the sales and use tax. So we did have in 2027 that we would go below our threshold of 25%. Now, if I throw in that 67.2%, you can kind of see there on that fourth number where it's at 2025, where we do kind of creep up based on the budget for 26 and then start declining a little bit. But as of right now, our fund balance is positive through 2030. Is there any questions on the general fund that anybody has right now before we switch over to the water and then some of those sales tax, half-cent sales tax?
I don't have any questions. I just want to comment. I like and appreciate the fact that we try to be very conservative in planning our budget each year. And I hope that continues because I think it's very good to then you see a more positive result at the end and carrying forwards.
Right.
So I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Right. And those 3 or so buckets that we were pointing out there, you know, we are trying to get as close as possible with those buckets. It's just the economy has not done exactly what we thought it would do. And I want to make a comment as well. I think I skipped over it. On those 3 items that I listed, I think I also showed a campground line item of roughly 47,000 higher than what we projected for campground. That money will stay in the campground area for future improvements. So we did do some improvements, had a great year, came up 47,000 more in revenue than we expected. So.
We gotta spend it there.
Yep, so stay there.
Spend it.
I will also note, and the general fund is impacted, but less than some of the other funds, that 38.2% ending fund balance in 2030, that is far improved because of revenue performance. Now, remember, there are a couple projects that we had planned to do. They've been pushed back, so they aren't reflected in those future expenditures, but they're small, so they don't have as much of an impact. But it's like you said, it's important to try to be as realistic as possible, but conservative so that we are careful, because when we do have those conversations as we go through the budget process, we have consistently outperformed what we've said on the fund balance. So staff has a confidence in that still.
Right. Moving on to the combined water and wastewater fund. In that fund, our operational revenue outperformed what we budgeted by roughly $600,000. The majority of that is water sales and wastewater sales where it came in higher. As we have made increases in the rates, we always take a little percentage down in sales as rates go up. Sometimes people will be more conservative, not spend as much. We did not really see that this year. The water sales came in just over 300,000 better than what we expected, and the wastewater was a little over 200,000. So, and then also in these numbers, I don't think I actually threw the COP issuance in there, but I wanted to make special note that we did do that COP issuance. It's a little more than 8.5 million. Right. I didn't throw it in the numbers that are coming up here, just so it looked just decent. So just remember, we do have that 8.5 million. Chuck and I work almost daily, but formally at least once a week, once every other week on going over those numbers, making sure that we're getting reimbursed correctly. So far, so good on that. On the expenditure savings side, we had some significant savings. Again, projects just getting pushed back, delayed, not starting exactly when we thought. We have a couple, we had one bid opening today. Smith's Force Main came in today, came in under what we projected. So contracts are still coming in good. Here's where we look at the kind of the overall revenues and expenditures of that fund. As you can see, we had budget versus actual on the revenue side of just over 560,000. On the expenditure side, we have that savings of just under 2.8 million. And again, that is a lot of those are due to those larger projects just not getting started right away, which are all reflected in the 26 budget. All right, moving on to these half-cent sales tax funds. First up is the transportation sales tax fund. Again, I listed down at the bottom there, those are the larger project delays that are coming out of that fund. That is reflective of those variances you see on the revenues and the expenses. All of those two projects down there will be happening in 26. Obviously, the commercial street and sidewalks is started. We hadn't got any kind of reimbursement yet because it was small dollars going through in 25. Looking at the capital improvement sales tax fund, again, these numbers are almost 1-for-1 here on the revenue savings. Those two reimbursements kind of make up close to what that revenue savings was just in those two projects listed there. And then also on the expenditure side, again, just projects getting slowed down and delayed. Parks and Stormwater Sales Tax Fund. We really didn't have too many projects going through here. Our big project for 25 was the OK Railroad. That will be happening in 26 for sure, Chuck. Yep.
It's on the budget tonight.
It is. So right now that reimbursement, we're keeping it at 184. We did ask for a little bit more, but we have not got an answer back for that one. So those other two projects are where the cost savings were for that $841,000 variance. Looking at the sanitation fund. As you can see here, revenues were very close to what we had budgeted for the year. And then on the expenditure side, we were almost $25,000 less. That can be contributed to timing of our payments to GFL, timing of when they put on their books expenditures for the customers. On the revenue side, that's a little easier for us to do just because we are billing one for services. We will keep an eye on that fund balance though for the sanitation fund, because if you remember, we have talked about if that gets built up to a certain point, we'll start adding a little more events or adding more recycling. Looking at the vehicle and replacement fund, this is, if you remember in early 2025, we did a quick presentation on this fund. We had started taking the stance in the beginning of the fiscal 2025 that we were not turning over our vehicles as fast as what enterprise would pretty much like us to do. We have a lot of vehicles that don't get a lot of mileage on them every year. So we wanted to kind of pump the brakes, no pun intended, to kind of slow down that process. If we trade in, our lease payment typically goes up. So we did have some cost savings there this year. The other thing we talked about when this fund was developed back in 2020, 2021, we had talked about building up the fund balance so that if something happened, we could buy ourselves out of this contract. So we are slowly getting this fund balance back up in 2026. We've also budgeted so that we can have a little healthy balance, probably get a little over 100,000 in the fund balance. And then we'll just continue doing that year after year. And that is actually the last slide. Is there any questions on 2025 actual results?
Nobody? Good year.
All right. Yep, it was a very good year.
You got a wall today then, Chuck, right? We got a wall now that we got to pay for. We finally have a wall to pay for. So we will spend it. They threw that thing up in like 2 days. Pretty impressive.
Hey, Rick, I know we've talked about this before in past. Any idea, I mean, I know that the county won't recognize the property taxes for projects that come online, but are you staying pretty close to Jack in the development department on just kind of watching that going into this year?
Yeah, Jack and I kind of discuss off and on status of especially commercial as well as residential permitting and whatnot. So we are keeping a close eye on that and just trying to budget based on where we think some of those will come online. Granted, there's always that lag too. Once they come online, there's typically another year lag before we would recognize anything as well.
Anything else? Anyone? All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn work session.
Do I have a second? All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Stand adjourned for a little bit.